Thanks.
Thanks for the call. 623-444-5889. That's the main number. It will work from anywhere on planet Earth, and we also have a toll-free number in the USA or Canada, 888-223-4599. Caller, you're live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling?
Yes, this is Mike from Kentucky, Kevin.
Hello, Mike.
Yes, Clif, in view of all of these WebBot predictions and everything, what plans do you have on how to deal with the coming event personally?
Well, it's a good question, I suppose. I mean, I've got a little bit of cash in the sense of what wealth we've been able to accumulate. I'm not a rich person, but I bought some silver because it was a way of getting it out of dollars and into something that would hold purchasing value. But in the main, what I've done is to put resources into the ability to produce foods. And so I'm heavy into sprouting and trying to get as much of my diet into a home production system as I can. This includes a dome for growing vegetables and cold frames and making my own compost and all that sort of thing. Plus I have a boat, a small 25-foot open boat that we'll have to do at the moment that is basically going to be in case we have to take to the water. There's a lot of reasons that might occur, especially with all of the flooding and so forth that we see showing up here. So it revolves around foods and the ability to have some kind of waterborne transportation, just because the universe seems to be pointing me in that direction. I mean, in other words, saying, you might need this.
All right, we have to step away for a break. Mike, thanks for the call. We'll be back, folks, right after this, so don't go. All right, welcome back to the Kevin Smith Show, and my guest this evening, Clif High. The telephone lines are open, and the telephone number is 623-444-5889. The toll-free number is 888-223-4599. Toll-free, 888-223-4599 in the USA and Canada. And if you're outside the USA and you're outside of Canada, you can use the flash message option as well. It's on my website, KevinSmithShow.com. Clif, let's go straight to the telephones. Caller, you're live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling? Hello, caller. The caller is gone. All right, 623-444-5889. Does the WebBot, Clif, seem to show a sort of Mad Max world for a while?
Actually, it shows something, and when I think of Mad Max, I would think of the scenes in the desert and that kind of a deal. And in fact, we have sort of the reverse of that, if you will, more of a water world kind of a scenario as opposed to a Mad Max. I'm not saying that it's going to be covered in, the planet's going to be covered in water, but we have a lot of wording for disrupted flooding, new lakes and rivers and this kind of thing that causes humans to have to adapt. So it does show, though, in a general sense, what we would think of as a post-apocalyptic bent to the language following 2013.
All right, let's go to the telephone. Caller, you're live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling?
Sort of Mad Max world.
All right, you're listening to the radio instead of the telephone, and that's why you missed us. Okay, let's go to the flash message board, and this one from Kev in Australia. And first question, Mr. Clif, hi, your thoughts on your program's actually might be, your thoughts on your program, WebBots, actually might be accessing some type of interaction of human remote viewing. Okay, do you think that's what's happening?
Well, yeah, in a sense. Remote viewing, though, again, you're talking to a linguist, and so remote viewing is a very specific
on, and we'll be with you in just a moment. The second question, does the data see a correlation between the internet use and human brain changes, which might cause manipulations of our evolution?
Yes. I don't know about the manipulations business in terms of the evolutions, but there's a direct correlation between internet usage and what we think of as an increase in capacity or brain function.
All right. To the telephone caller, you're live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling?
Yes, thank you again for taking my call again. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. This is Tucker calling from Southern California again. And I was wondering about the second part of my question regarding Paraguay, Brazil. Seems like was said somewhere along the way by Clif that that was going to be one of the safer spots when the confluence of whatever happens.
Okay.
I've mentioned that, Tucker, I've mentioned that in the past. We know, for instance, that the Bush family is heavily invested in Paraguay. The reason to bring that up is that if rising water in masses is an issue, then the Andes Mountains represent the area in the Americas where we're going to get some level of survival from it. But I don't know that that's going to be the circumstances or the conditions. There's some strange things. For instance, the Lake Titicaca in the Andes used to be a seaport, and it rose up and became an 11,000-foot altitude lake in less than a month, and it killed lots and lots of people in the process, and there was a huge seaport there that could handle hundreds of thousands of tons of goods a day for a big civilization, and yet it ended up shoved way up into the sky. So it may be a good thing to assume that that's going to stay there in terms of the land, but we could also see rising land elsewhere, and the whole thing could go really chaotic. It just is going to depend on how nasty it all gets. Patrick Garrell he's another guy who's involved in watching the sun for a trigger here, and last I had heard, he's of the opinion that the southern hemisphere high mountains are really the place to be, and he's chosen to go to mountains in Africa.
Okay, let's go back. Well, yeah, but you don't think like the Rockies would be okay, huh?
They may indeed. If you look at the globe and you look at the Rockies, the Cascades into the Sierra Nevadas, as well as the Andes, as well as the central Mexican islands, these were all created at the same angle. So there's some underlying geometry going on there that has all of these mountains in an upthrust event, and even out here into the Cascades and the most recent earthquakes we had up and down California and on the West Coast have all been rising land events. So that actually is probably pretty good news. And it depends on how nasty it gets. There's this, it's disappeared now, but there was this Egyptian plate, or reputed to be Egyptian. It was from the pre-Pharaohic area that we now call Egypt. But there was never, its authenticity was never established as being connected to what we think of the Pharaohic Egyptians. Nonetheless, this baked ceramic plate had inscribed on it and painted into it descriptions of 11 previous pole shifts if you read the language in a particular way. And it was my interpretation that that's what the makers wanted us to read, was this description. And they actually said that, for instance, and they did everything by astronomical alignment. So you'd go and look up the astronomy and you'd say, oh, okay, that happened 42,000 years ago. And so you'd look back on the plate and it would say this pole shift that happened 42,000 years ago, and it was no big deal. There were 50-foot waves, a lot of 7.0 earthquakes, and it quieted down after about 5 years. And then you look at it and it says, hey, the one back 63,000 years ago, now that one kicked our butts. And we had, whole new lands rise up and everything went topsy-turvy and the two continents disappeared and all these people died. So it is not a constant that it'll always be at the same level of catastrophe.
All right. Back to the telephone caller. You're live on the Kevin Smith Show. Your first name and from where are you calling?
Hi Kevin, and hi Clif. This is John from Vancouver Island.
Hello, John.
How are you doing, John?
Hi. And I've been listening to you for a while, Clif. I got something a little different. My son called me to help him with. He's going to file papers individual concepts. So I'm wondering if you've gotten anything along those lines.
In our data, it shows that there's a movement in the crown colonies that we